Welcome to the inaugural edition of the Press Box Podcast. Hi, I'm Ralph Miranda. Joseph Miranda will be joining me, and on our inaugural edition, we're going to have Jonathan Crompton as our guest. And Jonathan is a former Southeastern Conference quarterback at the University of Tennessee, an NFL quarterback, as well as a Canadian Football League quarterback. Jonathan will be our first guest, but before we get started, we want to kind of give you the genesis of how the Press Box Podcast got started. As most of you probably are, Joseph and I talk a lot of sports, along with our producer, Nathan. And that's all we do is talk sports. And every once in a while, we'll say, I wonder why they're not talking about that on TV or talking about that on the radio. So we thought, hey, what better way to get our take on the air than to form our own podcast? And that's how the Press Box Podcast got started. So we're going to bring you guests like Jonathan Crompton. On a future podcast, we're going to have Coach Jim Gaylor, the former defensive coordinator at Maryville, as well as Derek Hunt, the head football coach at Maryville High School, along with many, many other guests. But sometimes those interviews will be the entire podcast. Other times, we're going to just talk about our take on the podcast. So stay with us on the Press Box Podcast. Today is Jonathan Crompton. Jonathan is a former starting quarterback for the Tennessee Volunteers in the Southeastern Conference and also a former NFL quarterback and CFL quarterback. And Jonathan, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate it. It's going to be fun. Absolutely.
It's great to have you. Before we get started, Jonathan, I know you've probably been asked this question 1,000 times, but what's your take on all this coaching search that's going on and all the rumors and all that? I mean, if I hear one more person tell me that they saw John Gruden at the airport, I think I'm going to have a stroke.
I know, man. I'm with you. I've been asked, oh God, I can't tell how many times, and as they call them, the groomers, I guess you could say.
The groomers.
It's so funny how it always seems to, every time, and I know it sounds awful to say at Tennessee every time the coaching comes open, but they always seem to mention his name. But in my personal opinion, man, he's never going to take the job. He's never coached college.
Right.
Why would you want to do that? Because then you got to recruit, then you got to go wine and dine guys instead of just saying, hey, I'm drafting you. If you don't perform, I'm cutting you. Like it's a completely different mindset. So I take it as the media loves it because they can, like ESPN and all the Knoxville stations, it helps them out because it brings something to talk about. That's my personal opinion.
I think Gruden even came out and said, just in general, he said, yeah, you don't want me coaching at your school. He goes, with all the regulations right now, I'd probably have you on probation in 3 months.
Exactly. You don't have those regulations at the pro level. You just, you can do things a little differently because the guys are getting paid.
Right. So, I mean, with Gruden specifically, I know you just mentioned, look at his history. It's all been in the NFL. I mean, in your opinion, what kind of history do you think they should look for in a candidate? I mean, you have, like I said, somebody like Gruden with NFL history. You have guys out there that have had both. You have guys that are strictly college coaches. What do you think would be a good fit right now?
Oh God, there's so many different ways I could go with this.
I mean, yes, like you personally, like how do you feel personally?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I personally have 3 in my head.
All right.
But the stipulations for me are, and we need somebody that has the name.
Okay.
Sure.
And the reason why I say that is because if they don't quote unquote have a name behind them, then it's going to be hard to sell them.
Right.
The not this year, but the guy that I think is going to be the next big hire is Campbell from Iowa State, but not this year.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be the next quote unquote big guy. But for this year, I think we need a guy with a name. I think they need to have been a head coach or coordinator on a championship team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's just so they have that experience of play calling offensively or defensively. in those games, because it's, if I can, as long as I do what the coordinator says as a position coach, then I'm okay. But I want to see if I want those guys to have the pressure experience, so to speak. Not that the other guys don't have the pressure. That's not what I'm saying. But I think they should have coached in the SEC in the past and or a Power 5 conference in the past.
Okay, so throw us out a couple names.
I knew it was coming.
Based on the last thing you said, I would say Dan Mullen maybe from Mississippi State, or having coached in the SEC. All right,
I'm gonna do this for you.
All right,
just to make it interesting.
All right,
I want to see if you can guess one, or if not all three on my list real quick.
All right.
I'm never.
Oh wow. You take the first shot. Go ahead.
All right. Gosh, that is a good question. How about and I forget the guy's name now, but the guy that used to be the defensive coordinator here at Tennessee and was defensive coordinator at LSU.
Chief John Chavis.
Yeah.
He's not on my list, but
okay.
That's not a bad call, because he is a Tennessee guy. I mean, I know the guys would play for him. That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
They would play hard for him, because he is one of the best coaches on and off the field I've ever been around. But
I think
I didn't have him on my short list, but
right.
You did mention Dan Mullins. He's on my short list.
Okay. All
right.
I was gonna say about Chavis though. You that guess you almost proved his point, because you didn't remember his name, and we just talked about he has to be a named guy.
That's true. That's a good point.
That may not work out. So yeah.
All right. So now it's your turn to guess the other one.
Okay. Oh boy. I don't. I don't have one. I was gonna. Yeah, it's hard. I don't know.
My other two were Jimbo Fisher and Ralph. You should know who my.
Yeah, I know who your third one is.
People in Knoxville are gonna hate me. But,
I know who you're gonna say. Lane Kiffin, right?
Yeah.
Let's get away from Tennessee though, because that's obviously not why we wanted to talk to you. That's part of it. But I want to talk a little bit about you. I know you grew up in Waynesville, and Waynesville is a small town in North Carolina, not far from Knoxville. So take us a little bit through your youth. I mean, I know you love baseball. I know you're still playing some adult baseball. So how did you gravitate to football? How did your sports upbringing come along? Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, well, for me, growing up around here in a smaller rural town, so to speak, I play all I did was play sports. For some reason, that's all I ever gravitated to. My dad was an athlete. My mom was a cheerleader. I played soccer when I was 5, because I wasn't old enough to play football, and I cried every game. I've got a picture of me and the team pitcher, and I'm bawling my eyes out. My dad was a coach. Apparently, I was halfway decent, but I just hated it. I don't know why. But once I was old enough to play football, I played football. I played basketball since 2nd grade. I've played baseball since T-ball at 4. That's just what I always did. But I remember in the 4th grade, and this is actually a true story / funny story. The cool thing to do growing up was to go to the local pool. You paid $2 for unlimited access all day. In 4th grade, I told my mom and dad, I don't want to go back to the pool anymore. They're like, well, what'd you do to get kicked out? And I said, I didn't get kicked out. And they said, well, if you don't want to go to the pool with all your friends, we know you got kicked out. What'd you do? Right. To this day, they still don't believe me. They still think I got kicked out. I'm 30 years old. It's been that long, and they still think I got kicked out of the pool when I was in 4th grade.
Well, now's a good time. Now's a good time to tell us, what did you do to get kicked out?
I didn't do anything. What the deal was, I don't know what was different about my mindset and how I wanted to do things, because the baseball outfield the fence was probably 15, 20, 30 yards from the pool. The fence around in the pool. So I made my dad every day, when in the peak hours of those guys going in the late afternoon, to go to the outfield and do 2 hours of baseball and 2 hours of football where I could see them in the pool so I could work out.
All right.
Gotcha.
Like I said, I don't know why, but that's just what I wanted to do, and we did it every day. until I got in 6th grade and started working out with my high school coach every day and going, after school got out at 3, I went and worked out with the varsity team in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade after school.
You talked about, working at both baseball and football, but kind of what was the feeling of the town you grew up in? Was it more of a football town or baseball? Do you think?
Honestly, depending on what part of, because Waynesville's so close to Asheville, depending on what part of Asheville you're in, depends on if it's football or baseball. Because Asheville's got a lot of, they got this one school called T.C. Robertson High School, and they've always, I don't know how they are recent history, but when I was in school and before then, they had a lot of first-round draft picks in baseball.
Okay.
So that was a baseball school, and they were in our conference.
Right.
For us, it was more of a football school.
Yeah.
We were really good, but we weren't bad in baseball. We were good, but we were better in football overall as a team. But at baseball, there was a lot more athletes that weren't allowed to play other sports at certain schools because they were a baseball specific school. But we were more of a play every sport type of school.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When did you know that you wanted to play beyond high school? When did you say to yourself, I really would like to continue this sport and play it in college and maybe even professional?
4th grade.
4th grade. Wow. Awesome.
That's why I started doing it, because I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you what my mindset was at the exact time, obviously.
Right.
But it was one of those things that I was like, I want to do that. I want to play big time sports. I want to play baseball at a high level. I want to play football at a high level. And unfortunately, I hung up the baseball cleats without giving it a shot.
Right.
What age did you hang them up at?
After high school.
After high school. Okay.
Yeah, I was supposed to enter the amateur draft.
Yeah.
At high school, I just didn't do it.
No, go ahead.
No, I said, do you regret that?
No, because I can watch baseball and enjoy it and not critique it like I do football. Like football, everything I'm watching, like, well, why'd you do that? Or they're running, before the snap. Okay, they're running cover 2 here. Let's see. I would do this. So I analyze it so much. That baseball, I can just sit back and enjoy it and go, man, that was a good steal there. That was a good hit and run, and just enjoy the game.
Well, what would you say went into making that decision for football over baseball? Because obviously, I mean, it was a big point in your life. I mean, you obviously became a professional football player, so an athlete like yourself probably had a pretty good path both ways. So what kind of was the overriding factor?
Oh, honestly, getting a college education, and playing in the SEC.
Okay, yeah.
That's probably the easiest answer that I could give you.
Yeah.
That's not BS.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. A lot of college baseball programs don't have the money allocated to the scholarships. So as far as the education goes, I mean, you definitely got a better path in football.
So I think we talked about this once when we were doing one of those games. So playing in the SEC was a factor, because obviously I'm sure living in Waynesville, North Carolina probably came after you, maybe North Carolina State. I mean, you wanted to play in the SEC, right?
Yeah. So my favorite school growing up was Clemson.
All right.
Because I'm midway between Clemson and Knoxville.
Okay.
And we used to go down there every weekend. When I was growing up, all I ever wanted was Clemson stuff for Christmas when I was a kid and all this. And I remember I was 14 and my dad took off I think it was 2 weeks from work. And back then we still had the VHSs. So we were advised by a coach that was in my conference, that Coach Goldsmith, who was the national coach of the year at Duke and at Rice, but he came back to high school after a while, after he retired, and he coached in my conference. And he advised my dad, make a tape, get people to see it because this kid can play. And, I'm sitting there going, well, I appreciate that you think I can play at the high school level. I'm 14 years old.
Right.
So we go we travel around to the schools around here. When we went to Knoxville, we met with Randy Sanders, and it was really cool. Coach Sanders is still a good friend of mine.
Right.
Watched 3 plays and then cut it off and goes, I'll be back. And I went, oh, okay. Like, oh crap. Like, what's going on? Sitting good. He comes back and goes, I just wanted to go ahead and get, confirmation. He goes, "We're offering you a scholarship." And I went, "Oh, cool. That's awesome." And so we went to Tennessee, we went to North Carolina, Duke, NC State, Clemson, Wake Forest, all around just to try to see. And so we go to Clemson, and I'm sitting in Tommy Bowden's office. And at this point is when I knew I was going to the SEC. I say all that to say we're sitting there. Tommy Bowden he leans up on the couch. It's me and my dad. My mom's not there with us. And he grabs a Bible. And he goes, listen to me. He goes, "I just want you to know, as a follower of Christ, I'm telling you this. I've never done this before, and I can't tell you if I'll ever do it again." He goes, "But I'm offering a 14-year-old a scholarship to play at Clemson right now." My dad leaned back, and we've talked about this before. He goes, at that point, I knew we were done. And that was my dream school. And I went, "Coach Bowden, I appreciate it, but I'm gonna play in the SEC."
Wow.
And so when I was 14 is when I knew I wanted to play in the SEC, even though I've been offered, not technically they can't do it, or I don't know how now, but then they couldn't do it till September 1st. But you get all the verbal offers and all that stuff.
Right.
But at that point, that's when I told him, "Coach, I appreciate it, but I'm playing in the SEC."
Right.
So let's take it to the SEC now. So you come to Tennessee, and obviously when you came to Tennessee, Phil Fulmer was the head coach, and then obviously your last year was Lane Kiffin's first year. So take us through your experience at Tennessee, and more from the standpoint of how you grew and some of the things you had to go through to kind of become the player you were at the end of your career.
Oh, well, that's yeah, there we go. That's a good question right there. You go there. I was still 17 when I went. I was young for my grade.
Right.
I get there. I was actually in school technically before I'd even graduated high school. I was in classes had for 2 weeks before our graduation happened. And get down, it was interesting. You're 17-year-old kid, keyword kid.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a man. You might be a young man, but you're a kid in my mind, as much as we think we are mature. So you get down there, and it was neat for me because I was one of the few quarterbacks and players to be on the face of Rocky Top News along with Tim Couch, all this stuff when I was coming out, which was neat. You get the magazine covers, all that stuff. It's cool when you're 17. But when the good thing is my mom and dad raised me that you better be truthful, be a man of your word. So I tried to go that route. Actually, nothing ever goes to plan, so to speak, where, I had some success. I had shoulder surgery right off the bat, tore my labrum, rehabbed, then in 06 had some success playing against LSU and Arkansas. And then when that was second or third coordinator at this point, 08 comes with one of our coordinators who came from the 1AA level.
Right.
And I learned a lot about how to grow up and be a man and face adversity in the face, because I was raised to say, your true character is shown when adversity is thrown your way. And I never knew what that meant. You're always like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. Okay, that's cool." I never knew what it meant until I had those adverse times. And I was like, "Oh, okay, this is, I really got to be, I really have to be a man here and look whoever in the eye and say, I didn't play well, or take the blame, even if because it's never one guy's fault in football.
Right.
It's the ultimate team game. But as the quarterback, if you're not willing to say, I need to play better, even if it wasn't that position, then you're not a true leader. So I learned the true value of saying, you know what, I'll shoulder it. I can do that. I can be that guy that we need. And so it made me learn a lot about myself. And I'm glad that I did go through that stuff, for the fact of it's made me a better man down the road, and for when I do have kids and in those aspects. So, I mean, it was ups and downs. It wasn't all roses, but I wouldn't trade it for the world, because I learned a lot about myself, a lot about other people, and a lot about the game of football, because I've had a new offense every year since high school. So I've got to learn.
Well, that was going to be my next question. You mentioned the coordinators. How many did you have while at Tennessee?
4.
4. Okay, so we always hear people who listen to sports talk, everything. It's hard for a quarterback to change coordinators every year. Explain from a quarterback's perspective. Explain specifically what makes it so hard. Just besides, it's a new offense.
Yeah, well, statistically speaking, the best year a quarterback has is third year in the same offense.
Okay.
All right.
That's going by numbers, and I'm a math guy because numbers don't lie.
That's good. Yeah, absolutely.
But for the fact of what the worst part is you put everything you have into that one offense saying, I need to know this inside and out. So as soon as I hear the first word of the formation, I know the rest of the play call instantly. Right. And then going, well, it's December. See who my coach is next year because I got to learn a new system before February.
Right.
So, it's a lot of mental. It's not the physical prep for it. It's the mental prep to say, okay, I cannot say, well, this play is like this play from the last playbook because that's where you get messed up. If you try to correlate them together, or at least for me, I did. Yeah. If you try to correlate two offenses together, say, well, play A is like play B from the last playbook, so let me think of that way because then you accidentally call play A play
B. Right.
But that's the hardest part about the offense is just the mental grind of it because if you're dedicated to it, you don't have a spring break because you're in the middle of spring ball, so you have to try to make sure you got to stay and study so you know your offense a little better. That's just what you get when you play quarterback. You have to sacrifice things.
Well, how much also does the head coach play into that? Because I know, obviously, when you got there, Fulmer being a former offensive coordinator, and then Kiffin, heavily an offensive guy. How much does the head coach play into the role of the offense? Is he kind of working with the coordinator? Or who do you work directly more with in terms of the offense?
I've had it all. I've had where the head coach has zero to do with it.
Right.
I've had it where the head coach works with the coordinator, or it depends on what position the coordinator coaches. But the one like with Kiffin, that was probably the most fun offense I've ever played in because he was the head coach, but Jim Chaney was the coordinator, and I had a quarterback coach, so I got to work with three guys that knew a lot of football.
Yeah.
Right.
The best part was we all were on the same page, even though Kiffin called the play coach Chaney, who is from Georgia, and they're obviously having a lot of success now. They were working side by side with each other, and then me being in the meeting room with my quarterback coach, he got to relay to them I liked and did best, and then so we had all three brains working together. That was probably the best one,
right?
Because it wasn't just working with one guy. I got to work with three that knew what they were talking about.
Yeah. So on the flip side of what you talked about, having a different coordinator every year, how do you think having a good offensive coordinator or a good offensive-minded head coach how much do you think that really elevates a quarterback? Because I look at the situation the Rams are going through right now with Jared Goff, and last year, the guy didn't look like he could play with Jeff Fisher as the head coach, who's traditionally a defensive guy. And you bring McVay in here, and he looks like a totally new guy, and he's getting a lot of the credit for that. So I just want to know, how much can a coordinator and head coach really make a quarterback that much better?
Oh, I mean, they can make them better. I mean, God mighty, astronomically different. It's just if they know positions to not put a quarterback in. Okay. It's like Jim Chaney. He typically does not put his quarterback in a bad position in the sense of if it's 3rd and 15, I'm not going to do a 7-step drop because that's they can pin their ears back and go and come around the edge with a speed rush rather than do a screen or draw and just put them in if we got to punt, we got to punt. The best coordinators are the ones that are their mindset is end every drive on a punt or a kick, whether it's a punt, a field goal, an extra point. Because if we end it in the kick, we didn't turn the ball over.
Right.
And if we're punting it, we have a chance of pinning them deep.
Right.
So keep the ball in your hands. If it's 3rd and 15, live to play another play. Football's a game of inches. So those coordinators like that can keep you in good situations and know your strengths and not just say, because I've had coordinators where they say we're running these plays because I like them. Right. Well, what if I don't feel comfortable with them? Well, I don't care. You need to. Yeah. That's not conducive to a good work environment. A coordinator that says, whatever, here's the game plan. You can veto 5 plays.
Right.
Or you can veto 10 plays, whatever they want to say. That makes you as a quarterback feel more comfortable because the plays that you really don't feel comfortable with
Mhm.
are not going to be called.
Right.
I think that's what LA does, because I've played with McVay in Washington, and he's a great mind, and especially be as young as he is,
That's right. Yeah.
he's going to be there for a while, in my opinion. Or not,
Yeah.
I don't know about LA, but I'm just saying as a head coach.
Sure.
Right.
All right, let's take a break from Jonathan Crompton real quick to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Bonus Room Art. Bonus Room Art is a newly formed art company, first day of 2017, almost a year old, specializing in sports and movie art. To learn more about Bonus Room Art, visit bonusroomart.com. You can buy digitally prints, as well as get a custom artwork piece ordered. I personally have some work from bonusroomart.com. Did a great Kobe Bryant piece for me. Like I said, sports and movies, whatever you may like, go on the line to the commissions tab, fill out a request form, and they can get you your own custom art piece for you, a loved one, a friend, or your business. Without further ado, now back to Jonathan Crompton.
Well, let's talk a little bit about you mentioned you played with McVay in Washington. So you played quite a few years at the NFL, and I know you played in Canada as well. So talk a little bit about that experience from the standpoint of, the differences between the two, and also the difference from going from the SEC to the NFL, because you always hear every time you take a step up in level, it gets a little bit more challenging. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, everybody at that level, you're getting paid for a reason. So you're not going to have the quote unquote cupcake games anymore. Everybody can play. Everybody's getting paid.
Yeah.
So it's always that little bit faster. But the good part about playing the SEC, and I'm not saying this because I played there, there's a majority of the teams are so good with the Alabamas, when I was playing the Floridas, Georgias, Auburns, teams like that it prepared you a lot more than some other places. That might be a biased statement. I don't know.
No, I was going to say that's what I don't know if you heard Leonard Fournette was saying during the preseason or the first week of the season, that I think his quote was that the NFL seemed easy to him, but he ultimately kind of backtracked and said what you said, that he just thought the SEC prepared him well.
Yeah, it's because and that's the reason why a lot of guys want to play in the SEC nowadays, because you're going to play against the best every week. Right. I mean, look at it. Used to be, we're playing Mississippi State. Now they're just going, oh God, we're playing Mississippi State.
Yeah,
like your voice inflection changes with it because it's different. So, the difference for me was going from the NFL to the CFL and how the field was wider. Oh no, it was. I remember my first practice up there. I was like, it's just a 10-yard out to the field. It's no big deal. I got this. I've thrown these all my life.
Yeah.
And then I throw it, and it skipped to about 2-3 yards before, and I said, "What just happened?"
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. And the coach comes up and goes, "I tried to tell you, it's 6 yards wider on each side, and the hashes are high school hashes, so it's a longer throw." And I was like, "Yeah, man, you got me. Like, okay." And a difference is like down here, the old school smash, hitch, corner, like inside receiver.
Right.
Down here, you're looking to throw the corner out. It'll be caught at about 18 yards, 20 yards tops. Well, in Canada, it's going to be caught at about 45.
Right.
Because they take a different angle because the field's wider. They go farther downfield, and you got to throw it up. Right. So it's things like that were the different part, but as long as the quarterback knows what they're doing and has the arm for it, they can get it done.
And aside from the obvious answer to what I'm about to ask, how different is the 3 downs instead of 4?
First down's a lot more crucial.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong, down here, first down is crucial to keep you on pace down and distance wise. But first down there, if you don't get 5 yards or 4 yards,
right,
you're way behind the 8 ball, because now it's down here, it's 3rd and 10.
Right. Right.
And especially if you get a penalty and it goes 2nd and 15.
Right.
And again, first down's a lot more crucial, a lot more. But the one thing that I really had to get used to was most teams have their third quarter. They have to dress 3 quarterbacks up there.
Right.
Most teams' third quarterback is a runner, where it's the quarterback sneak quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something I had to get used to. that if you're listed as the number 3, typically, not always, but typically, you're only in to run quarterback sneaks, because on 2nd and 1 they do quarterback sneaks because the defensive line has to be 1 yard off the ball.
Okay.
That was a different thing, because I remember our first game when my rookie year up there, I said, why we got stopped on the 6-inch line? Why is the ball on the 1?
Right.
If you get stopped inside the 1, the ball goes back to the 1, so the ref doesn't have any indecision on if the defensive line was 1 yard off the ball.
I see.
So it always goes to the ball, never gets spotted inside the 1 yard line. It was unless you're backed up.
Gotcha.
But when you're going, it was the craziest thing ever. I said, what is going on up here?
I thought
it was cool.
I thought one of the funniest stories you ever told me, of course, it may have been just part of the story, but when we were broadcasting that one night, I guess it was at Montreal, maybe, where you were playing, but you said that you had walked home after the game. I just thought that was really funny, because you never think of a professional quarterback or any player being able to walk home after a game.
Oh, yeah. Well, because Montreal, it's such a metropolitan city that no player, I mean, some drive their cars, but most guys live downtown.
Right.
So you either just take the subway or you walk home. And I only lived 12-minute walk from the game Stadium. So I'd walk there before and walk home after. But it was a brutal walk if you got beat up during the game. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That was the longest 12 minutes ever.
What would you say? I know when people think about Canada specifically, they think hockey automatically, but what would you say it was the fan reaction or interaction that you saw in your years there? Did they support the team? Was it well received? Are they knowledgeable? How did you feel about all that?
Oh yeah, no, they love football up there. Obviously hockey is number 1, but they love football, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders actually have one of the top apparel selling teams in North America.
I did not know that.
They are, well, there's nothing else there in the whole province.
That's true. Yeah.
Nothing else there but the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And they are crazy about them in a good way. But they live, breathe, and die Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Well, Jonathan, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, staying on the CFL, your time in the CFL, was really the first chance you got in professional football to play an extended time during a regular season. So what, if anything, did you learn, during your time, years in the NFL, that you brought with you over to the CFL that you could really had a chance to transfer onto the field for the first time, and taking the differences in the game aside?
Well, just the preparation.
Mm-hmm.
How I never like to be out prepped. I always like to be able to, because once again, like I said, I've had a new offense every year, so I'm used to learning. So I always tried to make sure that, the headsets go out all the time. As much as people would like to think they don't, your headsets go out all the time. I always like to be able to have those play calls in my head ready. Mm-hmm. So it was the biggest thing for me was taken from learning from guys like Phillip Rivers, Rex Grossman, Tom Brady, right. Learning the prep of how to have each formation and each personnel have 4 plays ready in your head. If something happens, you have a go-to for a down and distance.
Right. So those guys specifically, what was the biggest thing you learned from Phillip Rivers?
Ooh, oh God! Now you put me on the spot.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I never really learned competitive nature or anything from anybody, but he is one of the most competitive people I've ever met.
Right. That's what
I liked about him. That's what I really liked about him, is how competitive he really was. But I mean, other than that, and I'm assuming you're going to ask about the other 2 I said too.
Go for it. Yeah.
But I mean, for him, it was just making sure he was always his thing was he was a perfectionist on his like ball placement, on having the right play, and then knowing where the ball was going, where it was going, and putting it in the right spot.
Right.
Brady was the reason why he's arguably the greatest of all time is he's a perfectionist of everything.
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
Right.
At all. He has to do everything perfect. And what I loved about Rex Grossman, learning from him, was his thing was nothing's ever going to be perfect.
Right.
It's not every play is going to play out the way that we practice it. So being able to improvise at the last minute perfectly improvising.
Right.
So that was, and so I tried to implement those with my preparation, along with how I play the game when I was up in Canada.
Let's talk. I want to give you a chance to. I know this is your first year not playing football, so this was your retirement year, or the start of your retirement. It's hard to say that for a guy that's 30 years old, but anyway, I know you started a quarterback academy, and I know from my short experience with you that you got a great personality, and I think the kids would love you. So talk a little bit about why you wanted to start it and kind of where you are in the development of that.
Oh, well, the main reason I want to start is I wanted to be able to give back and help young quarterbacks realize and achieve their dreams. Every kid playing sports, they want to be the starting pitcher in the World Series. They want to be the starting point guard in the NBA Finals, and they want to be the starting quarterback in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. When you're in the backyard, that's just what it is. So I want to give the kids that really want to achieve their dreams the opportunity to learn from myself that has played at a high level, learn from a lot of great people, learn from a lot of great coaches, and give back, because there's no reason Western North Carolina and East Tennessee shouldn't have more high-profile quarterbacks coming out of high school. Right. That's just my personal opinion. Mm-hmm. And I know we've had a few, but I want us to have more. I want us to be the place where everybody goes, man, you should watch out for these kids. They can play down there in Western North Carolina, East Tennessee. They play some quarterback. So that's the thing that I like to do, because I like to train them. It's fun to me. I've done it my whole life. I mean, it's never work if you love what you do. And I've done it since I was 7. So I want to keep going because it helps me stay young at heart. Feel like a big kid, and being around them, it keeps you energetic. So to me, it's a win-win. I get to be around kids that love the game. I get to coach them and take my knowledge with their skill set and try to implement both of them, and just have fun with it.
You know, it's interesting when you said about every kid dreams about being the quarterback in the Super Bowl and so forth and so on. You know, they asked Joe Montana when he was elected to the Hall of Fame, they asked him what it felt like, and did he dream about this day coming? And he said exactly what you said. He said, hey, when I was in the backyard playing football, I never dreamt about being in the Hall of Fame. He says, I dreamt about throwing the winning touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. So, you know, that's right on. I mean, I thought that was excellent.
Yeah, and that's what it was. And that's where, you know, for us as kids, whatever season it was what sport we played out back.
Right.
And baseball season, you would always tell the pitcher, if you're batting, hey, it's bottom 9, bases loaded, 2 outs, I'm down by 3.
Exactly.
I got to hit a grand slam to beat you. Let's go. You know, that's just what you do, or that's what we did as kids. And that's the way that I still try to act that way.
Right.
Because I feel like if we, like I said, if we love what we do, we don't work. And
that's right.
I feel like I love what I do. So I can be happy with that.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say is what, obviously when you're working with kids at this academy, and any young quarterback you're working with, obviously, you know, you want to develop them, you know, in all aspects of quarterbacking, but what either one trait or aspect do you think that you specifically bring to the table that you can really influence and help their development in that maybe others can't?
Oh man, look at this guy. No, honestly, just be yourself. It's so easy for everybody to say, oh, you need to do it this way. You need to do it this way. You need to do it this way. Or your arm has to be here. Your feet have to be here. Mm-hmm. Well, if I'm building a robot, then yes,
right.
I would say that stuff. So my thing is, I want kids to be able to be themselves, and I can adapt to them.
Okay.
I can implement my strengths with their strengths, where, you know, I can deal with, obviously, you know, the first day, first week, however long, depending on each kid, because every kid's different. You can't say that every kid gets this, and this on day 1, this on day 2. Some kids you have to learn how to coach them. So right. I can adapt to say, okay, here's the preliminary. Ideally, we want to be here, and here, but I want to watch you do your stuff first, and then let me figure out what you do well, and then we'll hone in on what you do well with my stuff, and we'll combine them. That's what I like to do.
Right.
how can some of our listeners learn more about your academy? Do you have a website set up yet, or some sort of way they can get in touch with you?
Social media, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a Facebook page and a website. It's the website is JCQB8. That's the number 8 pro.com.
Okay.
And the Facebook page, if I'm not mistaken, is just Jonathan Crompton's quarterbacks.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then and you mentioned the East Tennessee, Western Carolina area. What, I guess, you more based in Western Carolina, or are you kind of working in both areas?
No, I'm actually what's today? The 17th. On Sunday the 19th, I'm training a kid out of Harriman, Tennessee.
Okay.
I don't care. I travel.
Yeah.
I travel wherever I need to go. It does not bother me one bit. It gives me sometimes a little too much thinking time in the car, but sometimes that's a bad thing. But no, it's fun. I have no care to travel. I'm going to the Tennessee LSU game, so I'm just going to spend the night and then go train him, and then come back and go deer hunting on Monday.
There you go.
On opening day. Things I've never got to do. I can enjoy. I can enjoy not being hit. I can not being beat up for a living.
Right.
All right, so we're going to end our conversation with a rapid fire segment. I'm sure you've seen those on different. Yeah, I know you'll love this one. Some of it's going to be rapid fire. I just want your first answer as far as what you prefer. Others are going to require maybe a little more thought, but I think you'll enjoy it. I really do. So,
ready to edit. You never know.
Do what now?
You'll be all right.
I said, be ready to edit.
No. Well, if we have to, we will. But I don't think you'll have any problem. Okay, so first one's an easy one: night game or day game?
Night game.
Night game. Okay.
I take that back. It depends on if you're home or away, but I would go night.
Either way.
All right. Well, expand. Why? Tell me why.
If you're away, that means you're getting home at about 3 or 4 a.m.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's the worst, because then they still tell you to get up and come in the next morning. So away games, I love day games. Home games, I love night games.
All right, fair enough. 3rd and 1 or 2nd and 9?
2nd and 9.
2nd and 9. All right.
I bet most people go the other way on that
one. Would you rather face a fierce pass rush or a lockdown secondary?
Pass rush.
Why?
I can get the ball out quick.
I knew you were going to say that. Perfect. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like Wedding Crashers. Hot route.
Oh, that was that. I kind of walked into that one, didn't I? All right. So, what's one person who you had their poster on your wall as a high schooler?
Never did.
Never did.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
Never did.
Fair enough.
Okay. Well, okay. Let's go with this then. What if you did have that? What one person would the high school you have on their wall?
If I did have one?
Yeah. What? Yeah.
Well, here's the reason why I didn't have one. I didn't have one because I wanted my own.
Okay.
All right.
Fair enough. We'll leave it at that.
That was the God's honest reason why I never had a poster in my room, because I wanted one of myself.
We'll leave it
like
at that.
Not like I wanted. I'm not saying that about. I'm saying it made me want to work to where I could have a poster. That's what I mean by that.
I got you.
I understand. That's fair enough. All right, let's go to the next one then. What show would you like to have a cameo role in?
Ooh. Cameo role. Does it have to be right now?
No.
All time.
Friends, because of Jennifer Aniston.
There you go.
All right, fair enough. What one person throughout history would you like to have lunch with?
General Patton.
General Patton. Excellent choice. What movie made you cry with laughter?
Oh God. a lot. The most recent or of all time?
Anytime. And the first one that comes to your mind.
Happy Gilmore.
Yeah. Good choice.
That's my all-time favorite movie. So
Okay.
That's good. All right. The last one is going to be one that you may already have this list, but you may not. But we want you to rank your top 5 quarterbacks of all time.
Of all time.
And go ahead, Joseph.
No, I was going to say this is your personal list, so it's however you rank them. You can combine it, achievement and who you like personally, or just achievement. So just however you rank your top 5 of all time.
Okay, so in particular order or number 1 through 5?
No, you don't have.
Whatever you prefer. Whatever, if you've
Yeah,
got,
whatever
Okay,
you
I'm just
prefer.
trying to think because Johnny Unitas is on there because if it weren't for him, there would be no 2-minute offense.
Okay,
All right.
that's good. I respect the old school. I like it.
Oh, that's my all-time favorite player though.
Okay. So you would have the Johnny Unitas poster then. If we got the answer.
That's right.
Possible. There we go. I like that. Yeah, I like that. I used to have a flat top as a kid because of him. Okay, let's just go that way.
Okay.
I just ratted myself out a little bit. But
Did you have the high top? Did you have the high tops too?
No, I did not have the high tops. No.
All right.
I don't think my dad would let me do that.
All right.
So obviously Johnny Unitas, you cannot keep Brady off of it.
Okay.
You just can't.
All right.
You got to go Joe Montana.
Right.
Man, this is a tough list because I got a couple, but I got to think of all time, not just hype status.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
you can add.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the way I look because most people are going to say the same ones. I'm trying to think of all around.
Yeah. It's
Different
your
thing.
list. Yeah.
I'm going to go against what you're raised to think that if you don't win a championship, you're not the greatest. But Dan Marino,
All right. All right. Fair enough.
I think he changed a lot in the passing game for the history of football. Just if he has a better defense, he wins 3. But that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
And then my last one, in no particular order, obviously. Oh God, I've got like 4. I'm trying to do any, mini, miny, mo in my head.
We'll throw them all out there.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna go. It's hard to not say Peyton Manning, but it's hard to not say Joe Namath.
Right.
It's hard to not say some people are going to want to say John Elway, but I don't know if I'd want him on my top 5.
Right.
You've got Roger Staubach, you've got Bart Starr. I'm an old school guy though.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Because if it weren't for those guys, none of these guys would be doing what they do today and making the money they make.
That's right.
All right. So you got to pick one: Starr, Namath, or Staubach.
Namath.
Okay. There you go.
Got to go with Broadway.
There you go.
All right. So
Broadway.
I'm going to ask you one more question. I know I said that was the last one, but I want to get
Oh,
your
we're
take
good.
on. I want one more. I want to get your take on this. Who
Okay.
are 2 or 3 of the quarterbacks right now in college who they're talking about that you think will be good pros from what you've seen?
Sam Darnold, because I love that he runs a pro style offense and knows what a defense and a protection is. I love that because USC T. Martin is the next big coordinator to be hired in my mind. That's a personal opinion, but he's done a phenomenal job there. So I'm going to say Sam Darnold. I like the kid at UCLA, Rosen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just the only thing that gets me, and I know this. I mean, you can't obviously help the team around you on like how many points they're giving up, all this stuff, but they just don't win that many games, and that's what gets me. But he's a good quarterback. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they just don't win a whole lot. But I still like him. I think he'll be a pretty good pro. I really like the kid at Washington, and I know I've stayed in the Pac-12. I think that kid in Washington's good. I'm trying to think around the ACC right now.
What do you think about? Go ahead.
Who? No, go ahead.
What do you think about the kid at Oklahoma, Baker Mayfield?
That he's a product of the system. Why do you think Sam Bradford was the first quarterback in Oklahoma history to start a game? He's a product of the system. That's my opinion. Don't get me wrong; they put up big numbers.
Yeah.
But he's a product of the exact same system that these kids coming out. And I feel bad because they're not taught at the quarterback position actual technical, hey, if the defense does this, and this, we need to check to this protection, or we need to go here. And it's what you do at the NFL.
Right.
But, he could prove me wrong. But look, history normally repeats itself. When's the last time one of those offensive quarterbacks has been successful?
Right. Well, I think you said it with the first guy you mentioned, pro-style offense. I think that plays a large part of it for sure.
I do too, but I'm trying to think. If the kid at Florida State, Francois, doesn't get hurt, he's good. Even though he's only a sophomore, he's tough as nails.
Yeah, he is.
And unfortunately he got hurt, but that kid is, God, he's tough. I'm just trying to think of around the East Coast, but those three in the Pac-12 that I said, I really like those guys.
Okay.
I really do. I think those are three highly translatable offenses. I guess, or you could say transferable to the NFL.
Right.
I like those three guys. If it's me, I'm going to say they're three of the top 4 or 5 that are picked. Because if Sam Darnold, he should leave.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know. My opinion.
Okay.
I don't know what much more he can do besides come back and knock on wood, come back and get hurt.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the Rosen kid's already said he's going to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like those three guys a lot for the draft. But just actual pure passers, not even just talking about offenses. That kid at Auburn can spin it.
Yeah, he can. Well, Jonathan, listen, we appreciate you coming on as our guest. We thank you for your time and wish you the best of luck with your quarterback academy.
Oh, man, I appreciate you having me. This is fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Absolutely. We enjoyed it. All right. Our thanks for Jonathan Crompton for joining us today. Also like to thank our sponsor, Bonus Room Art. Be sure to visit bonusroomart.com again. And be sure to subscribe to the Pressbox podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or wherever you may get your podcast. This podcast will also be available on the Fox Sports Knoxville feed. Their podcast network up on iTunes. So look for it there. Look for it on our own Pressbox podcast set up on iTunes. And also follow Fox Sports Knox on Twitter, where you can get the latest right now on our podcast and when it will be coming up again. But until next time, Joseph Miranda signing off with Ralph Miranda on the Pressbox Podcast.